What's up, everybody? This is your co-host, Julia Jessie, with Converge Media, hosting the best podcast that ever was, Clapback Culture. What's up, Mike Davis?
Hey, Julia, how you doing?
I'm
I
good.
see you out here. You got me feeling underdressed right now.
You know, it's okay. I decided to give the people a little shoulder, honey. You know, shimmy my way into Friday. You feel me?
Okay.
And
Well,
my
how you doing tonight?
Huh?
How you doing tonight?
I'm okay. You know, it's been a busy week. It has been a trying week, child. My card broke down 1,000,001 times, honey, but your girl is back in the game.
The Benz?
Quiet down, sir. Quiet down.
All I hear is dollar signs. That's all.
Yeah, definitely. Most definitely. So my pockets is dry right now. You feel me? But yeah, excited to be here. It's been a long week. I'm grateful that tomorrow is Friday. And of course, I can't wait to get started on this show, homeboy.
Let's do it.
You're like, okay, let's do it. Okay. Very enthusiastic. Want to welcome everybody who is here for the first time. And of course, welcome back everybody who is a regular listener. You feel me? A lot of you guys have hit me and Mike up this week to give us some show topics. We love when you do that. So here is what is on the menu for tonight. We're going to talk about the Patriotic Millionaires. They're an organization that basically come after other millionaires and tell them that they need to pay more taxes. So we like people like that. We're going to talk about the new child tax credit that Joe Biden has. So it's really good news for parents. Got that dough cheese coming through. We're also going to talk about big homie Donald Trump back under investigation. I mean, I guess he stays under investigation. So maybe some of these charges will stick. We're also going to talk about the Chicago mayor only granting interviews to Black and brown journalists. And we want to get some clapback and some feedback about that for sure. Of course, like we do on Clapback Culture always, we're going to continue to bring you conversations that we talked about before. So we want to give you the update on the Matt Gaetz case. His former associate did plead guilty to new charges. So we'll chop it up about that. And some unfortunate news. We have the Associated Press that basically came out with body camera footage of a 49-year-old Black man, Ronald Green, being allegedly being wrongfully killed at the hands of police. We're going to talk about that. We have a good show lineup today, Mike.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, and shout out to Cuddy, who's working in the wings. We got him on the background, so he's going to be producing our show tonight. And also big shout out to Amari, who's always in the wings with us. We love that you guys are here. Let's get into it. So first things up, Cuddy, let's go ahead and talk about the Patriotic Millionaires. They plan to protest in front of Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos' house on tax day. So let's take a look.
Millionaires who have called on the rich to pay more in taxes launched protests this week in New York and Washington, including in front of Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos' homes. The effort is being organized by a group called the Patriotic Millionaires, whose members boast annual incomes of over $1 million or assets worth more than $5 million. Morris Pearl is chair of Patriotic Millionaires and joins us now. We're also joined by Yahoo Finance's Sabine Marcellus. Morris, thanks for being with us. I know that your group has said Jeff Bezos is the poster child for what you call the total idiocy of our country's tax code. How so?
Well, we have people who make huge amounts of money, are extremely wealthy, but really pay lower tax rates than people like you who have to work for a living. And it's just not fair. It's making the wealthy get wealthier and wealthier and wealthier. And regular working Americans get farther and farther behind every year. And that's increasing inequality. And it's decreasing the middle class that really makes our businesses possible. And that's what's harming our country.
So where did this idea come up to protest in front of Jeff Bezos' home? Did you guys actually do that? And did you have any interaction with Jeff Bezos? Any reaction there?
No, we did go to 212 Fifth Avenue, as you saw. But no, he was not there at the time, as far as I know. And we're not saying it's his fault. He didn't cause the problem. We're saying he's a symbol. He's the wealthiest person in the world. But by the way our tax system works, he does not have to pay very high taxes. We base taxes on income, not on how rich you are. And you can be very rich and not need any income. And we also have middle-class people who pay a tax on their wealth every year because most of their wealth is in their houses. But the rich do not pay a tax on their wealth. And we think things have to change, as Secretary Yellen said, as Kristen just reported.
Now, Morris, it's not just a problem of the wealthy, as you're putting it, not paying their fair share, taking advantages of loopholes and paying much less, but it's also the corporations. And obviously, Jeff Bezos, former CEO of Amazon, which I have reported, do not pay their taxes. So this isn't just necessarily a problem on the individual tax level, but also the corporate tax level. Now, Biden wants to bump that corporate tax rate up. Do you think it goes far enough, or do more, loopholes need to be plugged so that corporations, which are making billions in profits, are paying more than the average taxpayer?
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. As Kristen and Alexis were just saying, what the Republicans want to do, they say corporations need to have more money to give them an incentive to help the economy. But workers, we need to give workers less money so they'll have an incentive, or they'll have more problems and they'll be forced to go back to work. They have just the completely opposite logic. For the rich, we have to give them more money. For regular people that work for a living, we have to give them less money. That's just wrong.
It is just wrong, Mike Davis. I mean, this right here was such an interesting topic to me. So, little quick background. The Patriotic Millionaires, these are my kind of people, man. They are a group of millionaires. Basically, to be a member of the organization, you have to have an annual income of over $1 million or assets of over 5 million. So you gotta have that dough cheese to even be involved. And the group basically is planning to launch this tax day campaign on Monday, and have like mobile billboards that'll make stop in front of Bezos' house. In fact, they said that later in the clip, they basically just say that their office is not too far from one of Bezos' homes, and that he's the poster child. I mean, he's the richest man in the world, I believe, at this moment. So why not be the poster child for somebody like this, or for something like this, rather?
No, I totally agree. And I mean, just hearing that clip and doing some background research myself is, America is a wild place, Julia. We got a class of millionaires who are now pissed at the billionaires. But I think that clip makes a really, really great point. I mean, people in the middle class, people that are in that upper middle class, they're getting taxed heavily. And they're getting tired of seeing the billionaires, who are probably their bosses, and the people that are above them get to skate on paying taxes, while by and large, they got to foot the bill. So I'm just hoping that this is what it will take to actually have that sway to take us to a place where we can actually start taxing the people that are billionaires. I mean, we got a ton of billionaires in America. We just went through this whole pandemic where our billionaires made even more money. Speaking of Bezos, he just went through a divorce where he lost a bunch of money, but he still ended up with the same amount of money that he had before pandemic hit. And that's wild to think about. Another thing that I pick up from that clip is this whole idea of the Republicans not wanting to tax corporations, because they're saying that corporations need those resources so that they could redistribute to the workers. But we know that no wealth gets redistributed to the workers. I mean, you look around the country right now, we got workers refusing to go back to work because wages are so low. We know how stagnant wages are. And this is even outside of a minimum wage. Just the average salaries for workers have been stagnant for like the last 40 years, while the top earners and these billionaires, I mean, they've just been accumulating all sort of wealth this whole entire time. So I'm just glad to see that we do have a class where the middle class and a lot of these millionaires are finally saying enough is enough. And hopefully they put some of their money on the front lines of this fight, and maybe we'll actually see some change.
I couldn't agree more. And in fact, I mean, this is exactly what we talk about when we're talking about fighting for equity. When you are talking about taxing the rich, we're just talking about, cutting those tax loopholes where you're able to tax on unearned income, that investment income. There's so many millionaires and billionaires who are receiving top dollar because they don't have to pay a large amount of taxes on their investments. And so when you don't have a portfolio and you're just a regular person like me and you, or, the hundreds of people that are watching us now, we don't fall into that tax bracket. And so I'm looking for, instead of cutting our Social Security and Medicaid, let's go ahead and tax the wealthy so that they can give up a little piece of that change. Instead of us cutting our education, let's tax some of these billionaires who are earning all this revenue off people like us who are buying into their products and putting it back into our economy and stimulating regular people who are not those 1%ers for sure. So I'm for this. I feel like this is coming right at the heels of President Biden and the Democrats really pushing to tax people who are higher earners, making over 400,000 or more. And so I think this will bring in trillions of dollars into the economy if we can cut those loopholes for sure.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And just to drive it home, I mean, I end up owing money when I do taxes at the end of every year. So it would be nice, if they stop trying to hit me with that bill and start hitting Bezos and his homies with that bill. I mean, they'll be able to help the infrastructure of this country a hell of a lot more than a Mike Davis can, but somehow they always get to skate. So fingers crossed that we see some change, but I am glad that we're seeing this push.
Cut the B and tax the rich, man. So I'm with that. But speaking of taxes, we're going to talk about what President Joe Biden in his American Rescue Plan. It's really good news for parents. Basically, a monthly payment through the new federal enhanced tax credit will begin July 15th. You're going to get that monthly stimmy. And this was an expanded credit established in the American Rescue Plan. The maximum enhanced tax credit is $3,600 for children younger than 6 and $3,000 for those between 6 and 17. Let's take a look.
Speaking of taxes, today the Biden administration announced that about 39 million families will begin receiving monthly child tax credit payments starting July 15th. This is part of the expanded child tax program in the American Rescue Plan. Families will get monthly payments of up to $300 for each child under age 6 and up to $250 for each child between the ages of 6 and 18. Around 80% of the families that qualify have direct deposit already set up and don't need to take any other steps. The families who don't will get a check or debit card. We spoke to a local financial planner about how this program works.
Instead of waiting to year end to file your tax return and get your child tax credit, in order to help people out right now, they're going to give you half the credit monthly between now and the end of the year, and the other half when you file. That's the only difference, and it's for 2021.
Again, this tax credit is only for 1 year, and families are able to opt out.
So, Mike Davis, this is a 1-year expansion of the tax credit, kind of a bit of an experiment from lawmakers to help low-income families. What do you think?
I think it's about time. Man, I definitely wanted to use some stronger language there, but I'm all for it. Of course, I got 2 kids, so bring that on. I love this idea. I love the idea of making it monthly. It starts in July, so it'll come from July till December, and then the rest of it you'll get when you do your taxes next year. This is the type of stuff that we need to see from the government. Help the people that actually need help. Families have been suffering for the past, I don't know how long, and that extends further than just the virus. I think we talked last week and I mentioned the working poor, people who are out here going to work multiple jobs and still not able to make ends meet. Our nation is way too rich to have as many children that we do living in poverty. And then we wonder how our kids keep ended up in the system and all of these negative things. Is because, man, our kids is walking around hungry. Our kids is walking around not having the things that they need to be nourished. So, yes, I'm all for this. And I'm happy that parents are getting the support that they need.
I absolutely love this. I think what we are seeing in a lot of conversation that I have heard from parents all across DC that I've been in conversation with is this is something that's really going to boost what they can do for their kids. One mom told me that the $350 that she's going to receive for her child is enough to cover her child's tuition to go to her private school. The $350 a month. So that's little things like that really go a long way. There is also an opportunity for parents who want to receive that large sum of money rather than getting a monthly payment. They can go to the IRS website, go into that portal and opt to get a lump sum so that they can, make maybe a financial decision that they wouldn't be able to make getting a large sum of money, maybe 12,000, depending on how many kids you have, or, 10,000, using that lump sum of money to kind of doing something expansive for your family. The IRS also reported that this is going to roughly help 39 million households. That's a big chunk of people that really could use this. And so I'm all for supporting low income families and really getting people out of poverty and supporting people that are substantially investing into our communities each and every day. So this is for the working class people, and this is the best thing that we can do. So I hope that this becomes a permanent effort for sure. What do you think?
Well, that was the question that I was going to ask you. How likely do you think it is that we'll be able to build on this and keep it going past this 1-year trial period?
Well, I guess it just depends on how this trial period goes. We will see. I know that the American families are going to be for this. They're going to continue to opt in. They're going to continue to raise their hand and say, yes, this is what we need. And if you think about it, it's not that much money, right? And so if I'm a large household, I know if you're saying you're a family of 4 at this time, that could substantially support you and your household and really go towards the things that you guys need. And so I hope that this continues to be a permanent decision. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it fares. If we can cut the tax loopholes on these millionaires, maybe we can continue to make the investments into the people who are actually putting the work in each and every day.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
So we'll see. Shout out to Joe Biden, man. Like, won again, because if we continue to have a president like Donald Trump, Lord have mercy, America.
Yo, it's so crazy. Sometimes Joe Biden does stuff like this, and I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, see, I voted for the first time. Okay. And then some days I'm like, the hell is wrong with this guy? It's like it's one or the other. I wish we could have some middle ground, but this is one of the things that he's doing that is good. This is one of the things that supports real, actual American, everyday people. And it's nice to have somebody in office actually standing up for us. So shout out to him on this one.
Yeah, exactly. Because your boy Donald Trump is under investigation. New York Attorney General Letitia James opened a criminal investigation into the Trump organization, expanding that probe into the business of Donald Trump. Let's go ahead and take a look.
In another escalation of Donald Trump's legal woes, New York State's investigation into the former U.S. president's company has now become a criminal probe. The New York Attorney General's office said it opened the investigation on Tuesday, now going beyond what began as a civil case. Attorney General Letitia James has been looking into whether the Trump organization falsely reported property values to secure better loans and to gain economic and tax benefits. In a statement, a spokesman for James's office said, quote, "We have informed the Trump organization that our investigation into the organization is no longer purely civil in nature." The spokesman added they would be working alongside the Manhattan District Attorney. Manhattan DA Cyrus Vance has been investigating Trump for more than 2 years for possible tax and insurance fraud in dealings before Trump became president. The Trump organization could not immediately be reached for comment, though Trump has said that the investigation is politically motivated, overseen by Democrats. The case becomes the third known criminal investigation against the former Republican president.
I mean, come on. This guy can't. I was going to say he can't catch a break, but he doesn't need a break, right? They are going hard. This is exactly what we talked about when he lost the election, rightfully so. What do you think? I mean, is this just basically everything coming into fruition?
I mean, they've been trying to nail him down for a long time now. We'll see if this is finally the thing that sticks, but I mean, I would say the way that he left office probably doesn't help his case. I mean, there were rumors that he had wanted to pardon himself. He wasn't able to do that. So now, this might be the final nail in the coffin. It's hard to say, but I mean, I just don't see it happening. If I'm being completely honest, I don't. I think that they've had so many opportunities to get him on this thing and that thing, and he always manages to slide. I think part of it, it's not a good look for America as a country if our former president ends up behind bars. So I don't know, Julia. I don't see these charges sticking not criminally, maybe civil, but not criminal.
Well, I'm hoping for a stronger outcome. The investigation is looking back to 8 years worth of tax returns and financial records. And we do know that one of the district attorneys was trying to get the tax returns and had to go all the way to the Supreme Court until he got them. So I think there is a large level of effort and money being invested into this investigation. I am hopeful that we will see these falsified documents, these falsified financial reports, these tax returns. I'm excited to see what's on those. I'm going to have my popcorn and my sweet tea, and I'm going to be sitting back waiting, because on top of this, it's also coming at the heels of him being investigated for the January 6th riots. So all of this happening in 1 week, and Donald Trump is so angry about it. He's clapping back, calling this whole thing a witch hunt. Of course, we don't expect anything less from the former president. This right here is just everything coming into fruition, if you ask me.
I agree with you. And, when I say that I think he's going to get off, I'm not at all saying that I think he's innocent. I think that all of his actions in the past, I mean, he moves the way a guilty dude would move. So I do think that, but will the charges actually stick? We'll see. But, we'll definitely keep our eye on it, and we'll definitely keep bringing it back here every time we get some new information. It's kind of tough too, because he's still banned from social media. So I never even hear from this guy anymore. It's kind of weird having him be this silent.
Yeah, well, we got a couple of people saying it's a long time coming. Harry Jefferson said he's Teflon Don. Leon also called him Teflon Don. And in fact, it's funny because I really feel that if Donald Trump had never become president, we would not be giving him such the strong sniff test right now. So did he jeopardize himself by putting himself on a public platform?
I think you're absolutely right. If you think back to before Trump was president, we love Trump. And when I say we, everybody, man, Trump was kicking it with rappers. Trump was doing SNL. We just seen outrage after they allowed Elon Musk to do Saturday Night Live. Go look back at how many times they let Donald Trump do Saturday Night Live. He was tapped in with Miss Universe. He had his little reality show. He was kicking it with 50 Cent, and he was getting little movie cameos. I mean, Trump was like a pop culture icon. He was everywhere, even despite all the racism, because all of that stuff was all there too, but somehow it got looked over for all of those years. Then he became president, and he was living under that microscope. He could not get off Twitter to save his life, and now he's become what he's become.
Yeah, you can't give Donald Trump a platform at all. And that's why I said, we tread such a fine line by banning him on social media, but we cannot give somebody like that a platform to. You can't give him a mic. You just cannot give him a mic. He's like that uncle that always comes to the party drunk, and you're just like, but you don't post him. You just make sure that he's not at the wedding for too long. You make sure he has a ride home. And so
Julia, he was so good for content as a journalist. Yeah. He was amazing. It was just instant content. It was like every morning you wake up and open Twitter and you don't know what he was going to say. And who knows the type of stuff he will be saying now. But honestly, if they get him on anything, I would hope that it would be the insurrection. I think that would be a really strong message to show that there was a line that you should and should not cross. He jumped over that line and brought thousands of the homies with him. I think that is the thing, if any, that they should nail him on. But this tax stuff, he definitely looks guilty on that too. There's been so many different times where people wanted to see those taxes. He made sure to hide them. Like you said, it had to get taken all the way to the Supreme Court. I mean, innocent people don't move like that.
Bruh, listen, we could go on and on about this, but you're right.
Mhm.
When we talk about bringing the homies, let's talk about let's talk about Mike Gates's former homeboy associate, Joel Greensberg. He pled guilty to 6 federal charges. And so we talked about this once before. We're talking about the sexual assault, the sexual misconduct with minors. He pled guilty. Let's go ahead and take a look and then we'll talk about it.
Today, Chicago Mayor Lightfoot's 2-year anniversary.
All right, tonight, an ominous sign for Florida Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz. His close associate, Joel Greenberg, agreed to plead guilty today to numerous crimes, including child sex trafficking. The plea agreement stipulates that Greenberg will cooperate in all federal investigations, including the federal probe into Gaetz. We get more now from CBS's Major Garrett.
Florida Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz once called Joel Greenberg his wingman. In today's plea agreement, Greenberg admits to knowingly paying a minor for sex. The document says Greenberg also introduced the minor to other adult men who engaged in commercial sex acts with the minor. Multiple sources familiar with the matter tell CBS News one of the men Greenberg introduced the minor to was Gaetz, and that federal investigators are looking into whether Gaetz had a sexual relationship with her. Gaetz has repeatedly denied having sex with the minor and paying for sex. CBS News has also learned the identity of the minor in question, who is now 21.
Can I ask you a couple questions?
On Wednesday at the Capitol, we tried to ask Gaetz about his relationship with the woman.
Congressman Gaetz?
Arlo Devlin Brown is a former federal prosecutor.
If I'd had dealings with Joel Greenberg where I was involved in any of the illegal activities he's pled guilty to, particularly sex trafficking a minor, I'd be very concerned.
According to multiple sources, the woman, who was by then 18, also traveled to the Bahamas in 2018 with Gaetz and at least 3 other paid escorts. Greenberg is facing a minimum prison sentence of 12 years and agreed to help federal prosecutors with their investigation.
You can't half cooperate. Once you sign up with the government to be a cooperator, you better provide full and complete and truthful information.
And Major joins us. So how is Congressman Gaetz responding?
Nothing, Nora, from Gaetz directly, but a spokesman told us Congressman Gaetz doesn't seem to be named nor referenced in Mr. Greenberg's plea. Congressman Gaetz has never had sex with a minor and has never paid for sex, unquote. Joel Greenberg will plead guilty in federal court in Orlando on Monday. Nora?
More to come, Major. Thank you.
It's the last part for me. Once you sign up to be a snitch, you always going to be a snitch. Once you tell the government that you're going to work for them and you're going to cooperate, that's what happens. And I mean, your paperwork is your paperwork. So Greensberg, he signed up. He said, I am here to tell you everything. I don't want to do all this jail time by myself. I'm going to tell you whatever you want to hear. And I'm going to maybe indict anybody else who has any smidgen thing to do with it. But we're talking about sex trafficking. Okay. I don't even want to be associated with people who could get me caught up in sex trafficking. So are we guilty just by the company we keep?
Woo, I don't know. And this is a tough one too, because it's not funny. The crimes that they did is serious. We're talking about sex trafficking of minors. But when I see that clip of Matt Gaetz running from that reporter, that's comedy. That's pure comedy. And again, innocent people don't move like that. Innocent people don't got that camera shot where you're literally running through the building away from the reporter. His homie rolled over. So it's a wrap. Like he's going down. If the homie stayed solid, they might have been rich enough to try to fight that case. They might have beat it. They might not have. The homie rolled over. They got the young woman now willing to talk as well. It's only a matter of time before Gaetz is in handcuffs.
It's really only a matter of time. They're going to dismantle this case one brick by brick, and they're going to get to the bottom of it. So Matt Gaetz, count your days, sir. Just how they're saying in the comments, he is going to sing like a canary. So I am again going to be sitting, waiting and ready in the wings with my popcorn and my sweet tea, ready to be entertained. And again, Mike, to your point, you're right. This is not purely for our entertainment, because we're talking about young girls being victimized and manipulated by men in a position of power. And even if they consented illegally consented to say, okay, I'm going to go to the Bahamas with you. You can fly me out. You can do whatever. These are girls that are impressionable and they're underage, and they're not able to legally grant their authority to even be in relationship with men like this. And I think if we're talking about a politician and somebody who is representing a body of people, we have to have people with a better, stronger, and moral value. And we can't have people like this who want to have sex with young girls. That's just not who we need in office. So
you're absolutely right. And I understand that people are supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, but I can't lie. When Matt Gaetz was begging for that presidential pardon, and then he was mad when Trump didn't grant it, it just seemed like there was something. It seemed like there was going to be something that came out, because again, innocent people don't move like that.
Yeah.
If I'm innocent and I don't got nothing to hide, I'm not coming to Trump for no pardon. But he went to him. He didn't get it. He was upset. Now the homie snitching, and yeah, his whole world is about to crumble.
And so we'll see, because he's not in the documentation yet. But again, there's still so much time. You know, I'm sure if anything, the investigators are building up a substantial case so that they can have something to stick to Gaetz when it finally all comes out.
Exactly. And the government already has his friend in cooperation. I'm sure, just like you said, they're putting it together. They're not going to come up front with anything until it's rock solid. But he's in cooperation. They wanted Gaetz from the beginning. He was the big name. He's the politician. So it's only a matter of time. And again, we'll keep following this for y'all, and we'll be back when there's more, and there will be more.
So we do have some more interesting coverage on politicians. The Chicago mayor was granting interviews to only black and was only granting interviews to black and brown journalists to mark the second anniversary of her swearing in ceremony. So a lot of people kind of had their eyebrow raised on that. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Today is Chicago Mayor Lightfoot's 2-year anniversary in office. To mark that occasion, Lightfoot announced she would only grant one-on-one interviews to black and brown journalists. WGN political reporter Tamon Bradley sat down with her to learn more about that decision.
Your office says that you invited black and brown journalists to this round of interview. Why? I'm happy to vouch for Craig Wall, for Heather Sharon, and others.
Well, look, I think in this one day, when we are looking at the 2-year anniversary of my inauguration, as a woman of color, as a lesbian, it's important to me that diversity is put front and center.
Mayor Lori Lightfoot defending her most unusual decision to only invite black and brown journalists to her office for one-on-one interviews. The move infuriated the mostly white City Hall press corps. The outrage exploded on Twitter. One Latino newspaper reporter wrote he agreed to the sit-down but backed out to make a point.
If I, as the black woman mayor, the first ever, don't challenge us, the collective us, to do better, to really make sure that in every institution, it reflects the diversity and nuance and texture of our city, then shame on me.
Mayor Lightfoot is known to clash with opponents or those who question her. Reporting on leaked emails revealed the mayor, upset about critical reporting and commentary, canceled her Chicago Tribune subscription.
There are some folks you've been feuding with, some of them my white colleagues. Some people look at this as sort of a payback.
It has nothing to do with that. The facts are the facts. Look at the people who cover City Hall.
Charles Thomas knows the City Hall beat well as a former television political reporter. He says although newsroom diversity is an important topic, he questions the mayor's timing.
This is a distraction. Instead of talking about crime, talking about disarray in her administration, talking about education, talking about city finances, we're talking about this.
I have a lot of opinions and thoughts on this. I'm going to let you take this first. Go ahead.
So I want to address the end of that clip when the gentleman said, there's all these issues. And listen, please understand, every time somebody wants to do something for Black people specifically, it is always, always, always a roadblock. I don't know why this is, but this is what it is. And for those of you watching in Seattle, we literally just seen it here. We had politicians, local politicians promising millions and millions to the Black community. And then somehow it went from Black to BIPOC, and then it went from that to who knows where we are in this process. But I just say that to say it is always so hard to do things specifically for Black people, because you'll have people coming from every which way to come and speak against it. Now, Michael Harriot, who is an amazing Twitter follow, by the way, he's one of my personal favorite journalists. He made a great point responding to this story, and I'm going to bring it to y'all right here. In Donald Trump's 4 years as president, do you know how many times he granted one-on-one interviews to Black journalists in video or in print? Zero. Absolutely zero. The same could be said about numerous politicians. Then you should look at his thread. Mitch McConnell was another name that was mentioned there. When you look at the demographics of newsrooms, you can look at New York City, which is 53% Black and Latino in residence, but then the New York Times is only 9% Black and Latino in their newsrooms. Politicians are able to give interviews to white journalists exclusively throughout this country, and it happens all of the time. The mayor of Chicago stepping out and saying that she only wants to do this interview with a Black or Latino journalist, it's not controversial at all. She's literally just doing what her white counterparts do. Now, they might not jump out and say it because they don't have to say it, because Black journalists are so far and few in between that it's so easy for these white politicians to only deal with white journalists. And a lot of times you won't even notice it. But if she wants to deal with a Black journalist in Chicago at that, she has to go out of her way to do so, because their newsroom does not reflect the demographics of their community. So I'm all for her doing this. And for all of these people jumping out to speak against it, I think all of you should check yourself and look at what's actually happening here, because there's nothing at all wrong with her wanting to give these stories to journalists that look like her.
You know what the issue is, at least what I take issue to, is I think her rollout plan was terrible, right? And so here you are, you're making this like quick statement of, I only want to deal with Black and brown journalists. But in fact, I think she could even have taken it a step further to say, I would like to only give this interview to Black and brown media outlets, right? And that takes it a step further, because it doesn't really discriminate, but really you're offering platforms to smaller newsrooms like Converge Media, right? And so I don't know. I kind of take issue with this in a way, because I feel like we oftentimes swing the pendulum too far, either left or right, in either direction. And should she be able to allow this, imagine if her white counterpart decided that they only wanted to offer it to members of the LGBT community or just white people, right? And so I think we straddle a fine line in this. I don't know. I'm not totally against it. I always say Converge Media, or even just myself, I'm pro-Black, but I'm anti-nobody. And so giving opportunities to Black and brown people who oftentimes don't have a voice in the room or don't have first priority definitely should have a seat at the table. But I think there should have been a stronger and better rollout plan, because she faced so much objection. Additionally, she's under so much scrutiny. And so when we're talking about politicians, you can't really cut off the voice to anybody, right? And so if this were a celebrity, if this were a different kind of event, maybe so. But people of all races, all creeds, all color are the people who she's serving. And I think a lot of people had other things that they wanted to ask her, whether it be about education, the fiscal budget, her ideas and legislation around public safety. And so she has a lot to talk about. And I just can't imagine even being like the mayor in DC, not offering an opportunity for any of my journalists, my colleagues to ask those poignant questions to make sure that the people in Washington, DC get those answers.
I appreciate your point, but I have to push back here. And I mean, look, I also view myself as pro-black and not anti anyone. But where I have to push back on this is, like I said, you just had Donald Trump do 4 years in office and never grant a one-on-one interview to a black journalist. So when you're saying that, you know, maybe she shouldn't do that, maybe she should talk to everybody. Well, Donald Trump was president of the United States. He didn't talk to everybody. We just seen the governor. We just had, which governor was that we just had on this show that gave an exclusive to Fox News? There was no, where were the black reporters in that room? Black journalists get excluded by white politicians all the time. And the white politician might not come out and say, I'm only going to talk to white politicians, but they do it. They do it and they get away with it. She's doing the same thing that her white counterparts do. The only difference is she said it. And I guess I can kind of understand what you're saying about the rollout, but what I would push back to on that is if she decided in Chicago that she only wanted to give the exclusive to the black journalists, she would have to find one because most of the journalists are white. So it takes effort. It takes that extra effort to go find that black or brown journalist. Whereas when white politicians don't want to talk to us, they just don't do it. They don't say it, but they don't do it. And there's a lot of white politicians that are not talking to black journalists and they're doing it all the time. So, I mean, it goes both ways. I don't like how we're going to attack her for wanting to give an exclusive to her people. I think that we should be allowed to do that. We have stories where Latinx politicians step up and do things specifically for the Latin community. We have stories that we've covered here where members of the AAPI community have taken really strong stances in politics for their community. When we do things and we only want it to be black, there's always some pushback. There's always some excuse. There's always some, oh, well, you should have did it like this. You should have did it like, nah, no. If she wants to talk to only black folks, let her talk to only black folks. White folks do it all the time.
Yeah, I understand your point. I think I'm going to stand firm on the fact that if she were not a politician, I think it's such a dangerous precedent because she is a politician, right? And because she is in a position of being a public servant, I think she needs to be more open. However, let me finish my point. However, she's making the point that this is one day out of many days where there isn't room enough at the table for black and brown journalists. And so for the one day, I accept that. That's cool. I think we should keep that same energy for a lot more. I think it should just be normalized that black and brown people who, like me and you, show up into a newsroom and get the first choice at a story. I just think that I understand the criticism that she's facing. I'm actually, I'm for her standing, true to what she set out to do. She said that this was a move to break up the status quo, that there's an overwhelming amount of whiteness and in maleness at, in media, in the media outlets. But because she is the mayor, I think it sets a bad precedent for the people who are coming behind her. And so does it make it okay that Donald Trump, the former president, made no room for black and brown people? Hell no. Does it mean that people like Governor DeSantis decided that they only wanted the Fox media to be there? Hell no. But isn't that the same thing? Like DeSantis did the same thing that she's doing. And so are we the pot calling the kettle black? At any point, we're the press, we're the media. We all should have a seat at the table to be able to cover stories and give it to our audiences. Everybody who watches our show is not the same people who watch Fox and vice versa. And so everybody should have room enough at the table to have conversations with people who are public figures. That's just how I feel, and I'm standing on it.
I feel you, and I don't 100% disagree. I just would say that she's not setting the precedent here. The precedent has been set by a trail of white politicians that date back to the beginning of our country and the start of newspapers. And I will also add that, Black people in journalism did not start off on equal footing. We're still playing catch up. So her doing this is not, I mean, it's not just going against the status quo. It's saying that it's an acknowledgement that the white politicians do this for white journalists all the time and no one bats an eye. But when she wants to do this for Black journalists, we all have uproar. It doesn't sit right with me. It doesn't sit right with me. And I refuse to let it look like she's setting the precedent for doing this when we have multiple politicians that we know of that have already done this, and they are in way more prominent positions than the mayor. The president just did it. So, you know.
Well, I understand your argument. I just think, again, we're trailing such a fine line. This is a huge slippery slope. If we continue to give so much power to politicians to be able to box out who they want in the room to cover these stories, we will not have room enough at the table to have unbiased opinions. So I don't know. But look, let's go ahead and take a quick break. You know, things got heated. I need to go sip some water because Mike Davis is getting on my damn nerve. No, I'm kidding. We're going to take a quick break. But when we come back, we have so much to clap back on. We have some footage that was leaked or presented by the Associated Press on a gentleman named Ronald Green who died in the hands of police.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
Welcome back, fam. We're back with Clapback Culture. Cuddy, make sure you show us some of these comments. We want to know what everybody's saying. I see a lot of good comments. I don't want to go too far back in our last segment, but there was a good point that Love to Hoop made that I want to point out. They say most problems in our system are only exposed when the oppressed use the same system in the same ways. It's a tough spot to be in. Could not agree more with you. And in fact, that made me feel like maybe I need to check the way that I'm looking at this, because if you think about it, it's kind of the same thing. So
can I add real fast to that? During break, O just popped in here and O just mentioned how it took him 2 years to be able to build the connection that he has with the mayor. When he was just reaching out, he got nothing. He had to physically start showing up places, and his profile had to start raising. And now he has the ear. Man, got the ear of the whole city now. He's just on. But it's just a good point, though, that he didn't always have it. And as Black journalists, we don't always get it. So, I mean, how dope would it be if we had a Black mayor that was like, you know what, I'm gonna holla at Converge all the time. I'm gonna holla at South Seattle Emerald all the time. So, and shout out to the ones that do, man. Shout out to Gurmai, and man, I mean, everybody rocks with Converge. So this is not a good example, but thank you for bringing that back.
Well, I think you're right. It is a great example. And when we think about, Black media outlets, I think about the time where there was a red carpet event, and I can't remember who the celebrity was at the time, but they only decided to speak to the Black media outlets and the Black journalists that were on the red carpet, because oftentimes they don't even get enough time to get their interviews in. And so in situations like that, that's why I said, I think the rollout plan with this was just hella stupid. And there should have been a better rollout plan, a stronger rollout plan, so that a lot of this backlash wouldn't have been a distraction to some of the larger issues, but really saying, here we have it. Here's a seat at the table. So I already know what you're going to say.
No, you don't. You know you don't, because I'm going to say when has there ever been a time that somebody was trying to roll out something that was specifically for Black people where there wasn't backlash? Every time somebody does something for us, there's always backlash. A story that I've been trying to work into our show for a while that we haven't got to is the Black farmers and the support that the Biden administration was trying to give directly to Black farmers. Go look up this story, y'all, and look at how these white farmers are pissed about direct support to Black farmers, even though we know how hard it is for these Black farmers. We know that they are not on equal footing as their white counterparts. We know that by and large, these white folks have been able to have these plots of land for generations and generations and generations, and Black folks is playing catch up. So the government is like, okay, maybe we should help them. And these white folks is pissed. There is nothing that you can ever try to do for Black folks in America that's not going to get pushback.
Well said, Mike Davis. Honestly, you know, one thing that's great about Clapback is oftentimes we are able to have these discussions and dialogues, and it's like us sitting at the kitchen table. So we're arguing and you're helping me, you're teaching me, you're learning me. And now I'm kind of like, okay, maybe I can see the situation like that a little bit more. So I appreciate you, Mike. And I appreciate everybody who's online talking about this. These comments, this is the way we learn. This is how we learn.
Hey, this is literally how I became a voter.
Exactly.
It is though.
So
like,
yeah, I'm looking at this in a different light for sure. Look, we don't have much more time, but I do want to get to our last story. This was a news story. I had not heard about this, so you put me onto this as well. The family of Ronald Green, he was a 49-year-old Black man. His family filed a wrongful death lawsuit after being told he died in a 2019 car crash. Let's go ahead and take a look at the clip.
New revelations about the death of a Black man in police custody 2 years ago. A lawyer for the family of Ronald Green says they were initially told that he crashed his car while being pursued by Louisiana state troopers in 2019.
Now, body camera footage has emerged, and it shows Green being tased, kicked, and dragged by the officers before his death. The case is now the subject of a federal civil rights investigation. CNN's Ryan Young joins us live now to explain exactly the timeline of what happened and what we were told about what happened, Ryan.
Yeah, John, let's also not forget that this video was leaked. It was not officially released, and so we've never seen the full tape so far. And if you think about this, the family has been in limbo for the last 2 years.
I'm your brother. I'm scared.
Terrifying pleas from Ronald Green after a high-speed chase led to a deadly confrontation with Louisiana State Police just outside the city of Monroe in May of 2019.
Get up here.
In body cam video obtained by the Associated Press, troopers can be seen repeatedly punching Green after dragging him out of his vehicle.
Taser.
Troopers tase Green multiple times while he's face down on the ground as they attempt to handcuff him. Another trooper can be seen kicking Green.
All over. This guy ain't got AIDS.
The Associated Press released 3 segments of the original video, which it says is 46 minutes long. Only 2 of the video clips have audio. CNN has neither reviewed or obtained the original video, and it's unclear what occurred before or in between the video clips. The video is being seen by the public for the first time, but the incident took place 2 years ago. The body cam footage is shocking considering the way the encounter was described in the Louisiana State Police initial report in 2019, which says troopers attempted to pull Green over for an unspecified traffic violation that ended when Green crashed his vehicle. The report also says, quote, Green was taken into custody after resisting arrest and a struggle with troopers. Green died on the way to the hospital, the report said. At no time on the video can troopers be seen trying to render any medical aid to Green, who, according to the Associated Press, was face down and moaning for more than 9 minutes. CNN has reached out to the attorneys for the officers for comment. Lee Merritt is an attorney for the Green family and spoke to CNN.
It's not only what you're seeing, but the sounds that go with it. You can hear him screaming and writhing in pain as he says, I'm your brother, please stop. I'm sorry, I was just scared.
The Department of Justice is investigating the incident, and in a statement to CNN, the Louisiana State Police says The premature public release of investigative files and video evidence in this case is not authorized and was not obtained through official sources. LSP is confident in the judicial system and fair review of this incident and continues to offer our full cooperation. Unauthorized release of evidence undermines the investigative process and compromises the fair and impartial outcome for the Green family, LSMP employees, and the community. We are unable to provide any further information at this time. Green's mother tells NBC she thinks the Louisiana State Police murdered her son.
They beat him with the purpose of letting him just die.
This was incredibly shocking to me. I had no idea this story was even out there. I am shocked yet not surprised. Mike?
This is a tough one on so many levels. Again, we have a situation where the police lied. They originally told the family that he died in a car crash. Then after later investigation, it came out that he died after a scuffle with police. This was 2 years ago, though. And I say that because at the end of that clip, you see that long statement about the unauthorized release of the video. The video was actually leaked to the Associated Press, so they never released the video. They sat on that video for 2 whole years and did nothing. And now that the video is out, instead of addressing the officers, addressing the fact that they had him face down for 9 minutes while he literally begged for his life. We couldn't show the video here. I don't even know if you would want to see it, but I have a quote from one of the officers after he's begging for literal humanity, saying that, you know, we're all brothers. He's literally trying to show those police that it's a human being that they're beating and kicking and tasing. One of the responses from the officer is, and I quote, "I've got blood all over me. I hope this guy doesn't have fucking AIDS." That is what one of those arresting officers said about that man that eventually died. And all of this was over a traffic violation. So it wasn't a warrant. It wasn't a violent crime. It was a moving violation that he did in his car, led to him being beaten, punched, kicked, tased. He's bleeding all over the place. They got him face down. We know what that can lead to. And it's just appalling that the police continue to get away with things like this. And even after the video was leaked, they're more upset that the media obtained this video than they are at how their officers handled this situation. I don't even know how to feel at this point. I'm just getting tired of being in this same situation and talking about these same things over and over.
Literally over and over again. You know, one of my sayings that I say all the time, Mike, is that omission of the truth is a lie. And so the coroner had expressed in the report that the cause of death was ruled by was attributed to cardiac arrest. So you're thinking about, okay, you got into a car accident. How are you going into cardiac arrest? Well, the first thing I think about is how many times was this man tased? How many times, like, you see how he was kicked and screamed. And, you know, another quote that he said is, "I'm sorry, I'm scared, officer, I'm scared. I'm your brother, I'm scared." To be in the hands of somebody that you should be able to feel safe with. The police officers are meant to be there to enforce public safety. You should not be running away from police because you're scared. You should not be having interactions with the police and feeling scared. You should feel that these people are there to protect and serve, and they're absolutely not. And the narrative that, you know, that this is not excessive force has to stop. We have to really start having some real conversations about how we are going to change this law, how we're going to hold police accountable for their actions, because no longer do we need to continue to be having stories reporting on police killing innocent people. This man, Mr. Green, 49 years old, being pulled over for a traffic violation, being dead, his family being told that he died in a car crash when he was alive and well when he got out of the car, alive enough to be tased and brutally beaten by police. I mean, it's not like the police officers even reported that there was any type of blood, to the point where that the Associated Press had to get this video off a leak. Why is it that we have to be, we just fall so short in moments like this, where we continue to watch things over and over in black and white, in full color rather, and we still do nothing about it. And so I'm exhausted from it. I'm tired of it. My heart and prayers go to the family of Ronald Green. Justice needs to be served. We have to continue to keep our foot to the pedal and try to make some things happen. And Mike, you brought it up earlier about, even with the Joe Biden administration, that we often see, we have such good days with President Biden, and then we have days where we're just like, how come this is not being done? And this is a moment where I'm like, how come we don't have an executive order on police brutality? How come we don't have any laws that are coming into place right now by executive order that say protect Black people right now in the hands of police? Why don't we have that? I mean, today we just saw this huge bill in this rollout plan for Asian Americans, and it just happened all of a sudden. But why are we not protecting Black and brown people right now in the hands of police? It's crazy to me. It's asinine. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I don't know.
I will say that, and this is crazy, but I got to say, there was an act in George Floyd's name. It was one of the most comprehensive anti-police packages ever put forth. I mean, there's so much in that bill. And the crazy thing is, and I wrote an article about it, one of the biggest opponents of that bill was, I don't want to just say Black folks, but people associated with the Black Lives Matter movement, just in that they want the police abolished. And because that bill stopped short of abolishing the police, they actually spoke against it. And, I don't know what to make of that. That's a road that we can go down at another time, because we're already over time, and that's a really large conversation. But I mean, I think you're absolutely right. It would be nice to have that executive order. It would be nice to have some really concrete legislation. If you folks out there have time, please look up that George Floyd bill, because there is a lot in it. And, it's so unfortunate. I can't even focus right now, because in my mind, all I'm thinking of is how in America, as a Black man, how do you not run from the police? Like he was going to get pulled over for a traffic violation, and it appears that he ran because he was scared. Why wouldn't you not run? Why wouldn't you be scared? It seems like so many of us get pulled over for routine things and end up dead. I mean, my guy that got pulled over in Minnesota over having a air freshener hanging from his rearview mirror. It's illegal there. He had one hanging and got pulled over and ended up dead. It's like we could end up dead for anything. So,
how are you dying over an interaction with law enforcement for a traffic violation? You're like, that's just out of control to me. Like, I don't care what's going on. Like, that's just out of control. But look, we got to wrap it up. We're 4 minutes over. We appreciate everybody tuning in with us every single week. We hate to end it on this note, but we love to kick it with you every week. Please, please, please pull up next week, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Watch all the shows on Converge Media. Support us, because we support y'all. Mike Davis, where can they find you when you're not here?
You can find me at the South Seattle Emerald. Anywhere you find the Emerald, you're going to find your boy. You can also find me on Twitter at Real M Davis. Shout out to Converge. Y'all get you some merch.
Get you some merch at drop the merch link. Y'all drop the merch link.
Drop that merch link.
And look, you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Treasure of JULES. I appreciate when you guys follow me. Send us articles. Send us what you guys want to talk about so we can talk about it next week. Next week is next week Memorial Day weekend?
Oh, please don't ask me about dates in the future.
It probably is. So we gonna party with y'all. Let us bring in Memorial Day weekend with you before you guys go out on vacation. We love you. It's Clapback Culture. Peace.